I guess the main thing that I would try and pass on to the people is mental and physical go together. And just saying the words, we're going to fight this, we're going to fight it with everything we've got. Well, how? And that's the thing is, I've talked to a surgeon, a chemo doctor, a radiation doctor. I've talked to a nutritionist. I've talked to a physical therapist. Not one single person said, you need to do physical exercise to keep your body strong. Not one.
You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship.
Welcome to the Barbell Logic Podcast. I am Scott Hambrick. We have Matt Reynolds with us, and today it is a show with student of the gun radio's Professor Paul Markel, and he is, fighting fixes everything, Paul.
Fighting solves everything.
That's what it says. He's got the coffee mug that says "Fighting solves everything," and he is fighting a little bit of cancer. And so we thought we would talk to him about what that is like and what training is like for him. But before we get into that, I've really had a good run of training. I quit my job to be a specialist.
I don't think you should get, first off, I don't think you should get to set this up. I think we get to set this up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we know where this is going because Paul said, Paul, what did you see? Was it yesterday?
Yeah,
what did you see on Hambrick's social media?
Scott Silver Strength on the Instagrammage. So I got a little notification that says that he posted a new video. I'm like, oh, well, cool. I'm always interested in what he does and how he does it. So I scroll over and it says, hey, I got a great PR today. I'm like, all right, well, let me watch this. So he gets under the bar and he pulls it out. And then his lovely wife walks right in front of the camera, squats down, cheers him on. He squats, stands up, and she walks off camera, and no one got to see anything other than her hiney.
Yeah, it's literally a close-up of Charity's ass and like a pair of, are they Flayo shorts?
Yeah.
we should have.
Oh, I tagged him in it.
I was going to say, we should have got him to sponsor the show. And I have a conspiracy theory that Scott planned this all along, that squat is clearly an inch and a half high. And you don't know. So he's like, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand right beside the camera. I want everybody to be able to see me stand up with this weight, walk back, start my descent, and then you stand right in front of it. And like they spent time to get the camera. Now, by the way, I mean this in the most respectful way possible. Your wife's ass looks amazing in the video.
Well,
and so I'm thinking like you guys literally took the time to set up the camera at the perfect angle. You got the perfect Instagram ass angle. And basically it's just a PR video of her ass. And then you stand up, you lock out, and then she steps out of the way, and we see just in time for you to rack the weight in the and you're like, yep, 420 PR, squatted 420 pounds. And I'm like, nobody saw that, bro.
I will tell you this. I had no intention whatsoever of burying that thing. That is exactly parallel. Mm-hmm. Exactly parallel.
Jesus knows, Hambrick.
Oh, he knows. He was there. I promise you. If he hadn't been, it wouldn't have happened. It was exactly parallel. I then put 430 on there, got below parallel, and got on my toes. And I dropped a goddamn 5-pound plate from a barbell that was up at squat height on my bare foot the day before. And that thing got on my toes, and I was like, no.
Because you were wearing flip-flops.
I was wearing flip-flops. I broke my rule. I was wearing flip-flops like a lady. I was I finished my training.
So wait, you missed. So you hit 420 and then you tried 430 and missed.
Yeah, 420
I
just
didn't
flew
see
up.
That. I didn't see that in your training log that you sent me. I didn't see you type the 430 missed. Is it in there?
No, I don't know. It should have been.
I don't believe you.
And then I turned around and I took a little bit off the bar and I got a 5-rep PR. It was a stressful day.
Nice. So you hit a 1-rep max and a 5-rep max on the same day.
Yeah, my ass is wrung out, man.
So Professor Paul has been training. How long have you been with us at the online coaching?
Let's see, going all the way back to January of 17. Okay. So not quite 2.5 years now.
Wow.
Since I've been officially a starting strength disciple.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys came to a seminar I put on at Jaeger's place called Fight Strong. And you guys really bought in, and you guys have been training now for some time, and you look great, you feel great, you're super strong, you've set PRs across the board. Starting strength coach Graham Schaller is your coach,
mm-hmm.
And then you called me a few weeks ago, and actually, Jarrad scared the shit out of me. Is what actually happened. Is your son scared the shit out of me, and he sent me a text and an email that said, "Dad needs to get a hold of you. It's a super emergency," and gave no indication what it was. Right. So the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, who's dead? Mm-hmm. Somebody's dead, right? Jaeger's dead. Somebody is dead, and. So I was like, "Don't tell Jarrad to never do that again." So anyway, we connected. I said, "Look, we got to talk right now." And you said, "I got to do lunch." I said, "Paul, I can't function until I figure out what's going on and who's died." And so then you called me and you told me what?
That I have cancer.
What kind of cancer you got?
It's a cystic squamous cell carcinoma. Basically, it's like P16 positive. Long story short, it's in my neck. We found a lump in my lymph node, salivary gland. They're all like right there, next to each other. And it was like a discernible lump there. And I'm like, this, and you always think, it's like the old Arnold Schwarzenegger thing with a kindergarten cop where he says, it might be a tumor. And he's like, it's not a tumor. Right. Well, it was a tumor. Right. And that's the sick irony of it is, everybody jokes about that. Maybe it's a tumor. You're like, yeah, but it was. Anyway, so, anybody who's ever had experienced cancer knows that there's no quick cure. There's no quick treatment. There's no fast anything when it comes to that. Then you go to this doctor and that doctor, and then you go for this test and that test and the other test. And then they all get together and they're like, oh, okay, well, and the scariest thing, of course, is, the interim. Mm-hmm. In the interim, the doctor's like, we know that that's cancer right there, but we don't know where else in your body it is. It could be in your lungs, your esophagus, we don't know. It's in your body and it could be everywhere or nowhere. Right. Yeah. So then, of course I'm living in Wyoming. So that means I'm commuting an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours to, treatment facilities and basically testing facilities in Cheyenne and so forth. So they found out that it's only in my neck. It's nowhere else. It hasn't metastasized.
That's good.
My lungs,
right.
And everybody says, oh, you're 50 years old. It's, when I say I have cancer, they're like, oh, it's down there. I'm like, no, my butthole and my testicles are fine.
Can confirm.
By the way, there is an area between those two,
Yeah. Well, my butt and my balls are fine.
It's, by the way, it's called your taint.
A taint, yeah.
It taint your butthole and it taint your balls. And that's a prostate issue. That's where that beautiful prostate lives. But no, you're fine. So everything's in your neck.
Yeah.
And so the plan is to do what?
So then the plan is like, well, all right, you're going to have radiation. The way they treat this type of cancer is direct radiation oncology. And I'm learning all the terminology now. Well, I'm living out in the mountains in Saratoga, Wyoming, which is beautiful, but believe it or not, they don't have a cancer treatment facility there.
Right.
So the option was like go to Denver or, some other place, or Salt Lake City, which has a really good cancer treatment center. And Jarrad already lived here. Jarrad and his wife, Alex, already lived here. We already had a satellite office here. So that was really an easy choice to make to come here. But, good doctors are like good attorneys. You don't just get in to see them that day. So I got my recommendation or my referral from the guy in Wyoming. And it took, about 3 weeks for me to get over here and then to get seen at Huntsman. And then you start that process. And they're like, okay, we want you to talk to this guy. And they wanted me to talk to a surgeon because I thought, maybe we'll go in and we'll cut it out. And then they said, no, we don't want to do that because they said, what do you do for a living? And I said, I host a radio show. And they're like, we probably don't want to be cutting around your vocal cords. I'm like, and it's one of those things like, well, if we could just cut it out and then clean it up with radiation, it'd be quicker. But the downside could potentially be permanently altering your voice for life. And I was like, okay. And they said, and so they're like, well, we don't want to do that much surgery in your throat.
That would be like smashing a Stradivarius.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. They're trying to silence the pimp hand of America. So they're like, well, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that much invasive surgery in the back of your throat and your neck. So now I'm on radiation. I'm actually on week 2, almost done with week 2 of radiation. And it's what they call the gamma knife that's what one of the doctors refer to it as and they take gamma radiation. They take beams, and the beams, the way it was explained to me is the beams, the computer knows, I just lay there completely and totally immobile. They strap you down to a board. They put this mask over your head so you can't move at all. It's kind of like a medieval torture thing. And then they shoot you with the beams. And when right where the beams touch each other is where the gamma radiation is. And that's right on. And they did PET scans and, they got all that stuff. So they have a real good inside outside picture of my body.
I want to hear more about how you found it, because
I reached up and I did this. You know how you check your carotid pulse?
Yep.
You just reach up and you check your carotid pulse. And I actually reached up to check my carotid pulse, and there was a bump there. I was like,
How big of a bump did it feel like?
Like an olive.
Ooh, okay.
Size of an olive underneath there. Yeah.
I have Charity soap me up every day and just palpate my whole body, just looking, because I don't want to get cancer.
Is that what it is? Is that what you do?
Checking for lumps.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Do you do the same? You return the favor?
No, she'll be fine.
Okay, sure, of course.
Of course.
So one of the things that we've talked to Philip Midkiff and John Wilson and these guys who have come out of cancer. Of course, Wilson's still dealing with it. Midkiff has beaten his, and he had to go through radiation. He had malignant skin cancer up by his temple on one side of his head, and so he trained all the way through it. One of the main reason that we want to have you on the show is because we've talked to these two guys who have been through it on the other side. We haven't really talked to anybody who is in the middle of the fight. And from the very beginning, you and I talked on the phone, and you had this attitude that's like, I'm going to kick the shit out of this cancer, and I'm going to train all the way through it. And you started texting me. You used to do that in the early days. You would text me your PRs, and then it kind of becomes like life is just, and you just train, and it kind of becomes a thing you do. Like it's, and so now I'm getting these texts again about you're lifting and you're kicking cancer's ass, and you've got this motto of that fighting solves everything, and you're going to fight the shit out of this cancer. And so I wanted to have you on the show in the early stages of, I'm going through radiation. You've done 8 days, something like that at this point of radiation. You have 30 to do. Is that right?
30 total.
So you got 22 left, and I want to talk to you again on the back end of this thing and see what your attitude is like, and knowing that you're going to have, it's going to be a tough 6 weeks for you, but want to have that testimonial recorded because I think it's important for our listeners to hear. We talk a lot about voluntary hardship, and you are being faced with involuntary hardship that you've decided to. That's right. You've decided to use it as a method to refine yourself and to fight and to be a mentor or a role model for other people that deal with other hard things. And so sometimes we don't get to choose, but because you chose the thing that was hard and the hard path for the previous decades, I believe that you are better prepared for what you now have to face over the next month.
Well, and I'm sure you talked to your previous guests and clients and so forth. And one of the main concerns of all the cancer doctors when they start doing treatment, and that's the sick and twisted thing about cancer, is when normally if you get sick, you feel sick. You're like, I'm sick, something wrong with me, whatever. I got a disease or I broke something or whatever. You go to the doctor, you go to a hospital, and they start giving you treatment, and they give you treatment and it makes you feel better. That's how you know you're not sick anymore. Well, it's the exact opposite with cancer. It's like you feel okay. Like I felt okay. I mean, I knew I had this bump here, but I didn't feel sick. I wasn't nauseous and having sweats or whatever, so you don't feel bad until they start treating it. And they're like, the more they treat it, like if you had pneumonia, you went to the hospital, the more treatment you got, the better you'd feel. And then eventually you feel really great. And they're like, okay, you go home now. And with this, it's the exact opposite. The more they treat it, the worse you feel. It's a sick, twisted irony. But they're one of their main concerns because of that, because you feel worse and you eat less, you don't want to eat and so forth, is that you're going to lose muscle mass. And people get physically weak, and the radiation and the chemo and so forth. I mean, if you ever talked about it, a lot of times, what's not necessarily the cancer that kills them is their body gets weak to the point where it can't sustain.
Yeah, it wastes away.
They're concerned. They're like, man, we want to make sure you don't lose weight. We don't want you losing muscle mass, and so on and so forth. probably kind of a good idea before you start the treatment to have some muscle mass on your body.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I've been doing. I got diagnosed. I got the phone call on February 22nd, but I had never stopped. I went into the gym that day because it was my program day, and I did it. And I'll tell you the hardest thing now is I changed the keto diet because there are actually several studies that show that people who are on the ketogenic diet do better in chemo and radiation than those that don't.
Yep.
So I've been doing that, and it's been a mother fletcher. I tell you what, training and then going through the shift over to ketosis, and so
with no carbohydrates. So here you're doing this.
I told Graham, I was like, I did that entire workout with 6 carbs on board.
Eesh. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us what the experience of what it feels like. You're undergoing radiation therapy and you're training.
You're 8 days in.
Yeah. Tell us what that feels like.
Well, yeah, it's, they don't work on weekends. They don't work on holidays. So basically you do Monday through Friday treatment. And, the end of the first week, by Friday, I felt like after lunch, I had to have a nap. And I got that. And they tell you, they're like, look, if you feel tired, sleep. Don't try and muscle through it or whatever. If you feel tired, just sleep because we need you to do that. And so I did. And then a few days ago, maybe 3-4 days ago, I started noticing the dry mouth because the radiation is right there. It's right by your salivary gland and so forth. And it's not doing that any good. So I've got kind of a constant yuck mouth now. I put the special mints and I rinse my mouth and all that. And it's kind of a pain in the ass. But, that's what I've got right now. I feel like I'm good in the morning. And that's what I've talked to other people, and they said that that's very common. They sleep all night and they get up and they're good in the morning. And I get my treatments early in the morning between, 8 and 9 every day. And, I go to work and do whatever. But then by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my body's like, hey, we need a nap. So let's go do this. But I haven't missed a training session since I started. I've done my best, even when we traveled recently. I went to my son's birthday was 2 weeks ago, Zachary, his birthday. And we live in Salt Lake, which is only like 5-6 hours from Las Vegas. So we took him down there because I was about to start treatment anyway. It was like 2 weeks ago. So I was going to be starting treatment. I knew I wasn't going to travel or do anything. But while I was down there, I went to Average Bros and I lifted. I lifted the damn kilo plates that he had.
Right. Had to do the communist math. When are you training right now during the day? If you're getting your treatments in the morning, when are you actually lifting?
What I normally do is I'll do the treatment and then I'll come here because the gym is here at our office, and I will do that before lunch.
You'll train in the mornings, yeah.
Because I kind of know my body, and I know if I try and wait until afternoon, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, so then almost the combination, I would assume, of the radiation early and then the training mid-morning leaves you probably pretty not wiped out, and you have that nap in the afternoon and hope for kind of a second wind in the evening is the goal, I guess.
So, I lost, and when I started on keto, it takes a while. I mean, obviously every human being is different, but it takes a while for your body to process over. And the first week I was on it, I'm like, this is no big deal at all. And I was lifting heavy weight and squatting heavy weight, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. And then I'll go ahead and admit something. When we moved, we had to basically pack up an entire house, an entire office, and everything, and move over here. And that was a bit of a stress on the entire family.
Yeah, sure.
But I did miss that. But I haven't missed anything since we've been here. And when I got here and we got set up, I was feeling pretty washed out. But I'm feeling better now. I'm and Graham has been great. I told him, and this is the main thing I would tell anybody is if you're doing a program and you experience something like this, you got to tell your coach. Sure. So they can help you and make adjustments, because it's not like something they had ever heard before.
Yeah, I think that's one of the deals that we learned when we trained Philip Midkiff that was going through this was that, we want to keep him strong, and we want to avoid the loss of muscle mass as much as we can while you're basically undergoing a treatment that the goal is to kill cells. right? I mean, it kills good cells and bad cells. It's going to kill all this stuff, right? And so figuring out how to tailor that. So for Philip, we moved him from like 3 sets of 5 to 3 sets of 3, 2 sets of 3, 1 set of 3 with a couple back off sets of 3. And he's a little older than you, and so we just experimented with like what can he handle and what doesn't drive him into the ground, and what allows him to keep either getting stronger or maintaining strength the best you can. We talked about, Scott and I did an episode about how maintaining strength is bullshit, and really what you're doing is you're just chasing, you're doing the best you can to either PR, or you're chasing taking weight off the bar as slow as possible. Right, as you get sick and lose weight and get more ill from the radiation, or even for some people chemotherapy, or the combination of both, that you're probably not going to be able to set PRs during that time. But the goal is to be able to take the weight off the bar as slow as possible. Not take it off 10-pound plates at a time, but take it off 1-pound plates at a time. And so you've done a really good job so far of getting in the gym and keeping your weight heavy. And Graham's programmed you well. I peek in on the programming that he's doing for you, and I'm excited to see what it looks like over the next 4 to 6 weeks, especially as you get towards the end, and see what your
Matt's excited.
Just what your mindset is.
Matt's excited to see all this.
Well, I mean, what I mean is this. Here's the deal, man. Is that lots of people get this. Lots of people get cancer, right? Like that's the reality is that cancer, unfortunately, is dime a dozen.
Yeah.
But people who choose to fight the cancer are rare, and people who choose to fight the cancer with physical tough things like heavy strength training are almost unheard of. And so we don't have much of that in the literature, or to in real time be able to talk to somebody and go like, hey, we know this is where you are. We have faith that you're going to beat this thing. And so I think it's important to tell your story about fighting cancer in the midst of it, rather than after the fact.
Oh yeah, and even this facility. I mean, this facility that we did research on it, and it's a renowned facility. And if you look up cancer treatment, where I'm at is probably pretty highly regarded. But they had the entire medical community, I believe, in the United States of America is they're hamstrung by the fear of being sued. Sure. So because they're hamstrung by the fear of being sued, they won't endorse or do anything new or different or change. I mean, I had a dietitian hand me a thing saying I should be eating, I need to maintain my weight, so add peanut butter and tofu and all this stuff to my diet.
Soy.
Yeah, and right. I said I don't need that estrogen, and I don't need soy. And she's like, oh, that's a myth. There's no estrogen in soy.
Right.
Okay, whatever. And the paper said to avoid red meat because it could cause heart disease. I'm like, sure. What decade did they get this information?
What's amazing is how concerned you are right now with heart disease.
Right. Don't you
in the middle of 30 days of radiation, like, hey, listen, we are real concerned that in the middle of the radiation, you could potentially have a heart attack. Like, wouldn't that be shitty if all the steak you've been eating, and you got right down to the last goddamn day of this radiation, and you had a heart attack and died from the steak that you've eaten that man has eaten since the beginning of time? That don't eat red meat because that'll give you a heart attack in the midst of your radiation. Like, what total and utter bullshit. But yeah, that's it, man. People get it. We deal with it all the time, right? And the medical community they terrify these kids from the very beginning in college, and so. Yeah, I love it that you've taken it in your own hands. You're like, look, I'm eating keto. I'm not gonna again. We're not certain that helps, but there's been a fair amount of studies on it. You guys want to look that up? I think I pointed you to Dom D'Agostino. He's done a lot of studies there. I think Dr. Peter Attia has done some stuff there as well, and specifically low carb, no carb ketosis eating for people with cancer, and the results seem to be pretty good. And so it certainly isn't going to hurt. And so you drop the carbs. You continue to train, you get your protein in, you do your radiation, you do your training, you get your sleep, you take your naps, and you're sort of, it seems like you're just sort of, you've got a single focus right now, which is fighting this thing and beating the shit out of it.
Well, and the big thing that I see is we as Americans, we love to throw slogans on stuff, and we like to throw words at things. And I've said fighting solves everything for a long time, but when people have cancer, they're like, we're going to fight this and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. But saying the word fight really doesn't mean anything. It's like, well, what are you actually going to do? You know, what method do you have, and how do you fight? I mean, obviously, you know, I'm a gun guy and so forth, and you know, you can't shoot cancer, right? You can't, you know, stab cancer. What do you do? And so, I guess the main thing that I would try and pass on to other people is, you know, it doesn't really. I understand there's a mental component, but mental and physical go together. And just saying the words, we're going to fight this, we're going to fight it with everything we've got. Well, how are we doing that? You know, what are we doing? How are we fighting? And one of the physical manifestations that you can undergo is to actually get into make yourself be stressed. Do that. And no one, and that's the thing is, I've talked to a surgeon, a chemo doctor, a radiation doctor. I've talked to a nutritionist. I've talked to a physical therapist. You go through all these consults. Not one single person said you need to do physical exercise to keep your body strong. Not one. They're like, take naps and eat soy or tofu or whatever, you know, eat lots of peanut butter. But not one person said, you know, it'd probably be a good idea if you got up and did something to strengthen your body. You know, and they say, and that's something I asked them. I said, you know, you're talking about, you're afraid I'm going to lose muscle mass. That's your big concern, is we don't want you to lose muscle mass. Don't want you to lose muscle mass. I'm like, so what is your solution?
Right. So
eat lots of peanut butter
and tofu.
Right. That'll help. Don't train. Eat peanut butter and tofu. Be fine. Yeah.
So more concretes here. You're going for radiation therapy in the morning, Monday through Friday, unless it's a bank holiday, because you know oncologists take off on bank holidays, and so
they don't work Memorial Day. I'm off. I'm no radiation on Memorial Day.
Well, fortunately, the tumor's off that day too, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And then you're training. Are you training 3 times a week?
Yeah, I'm on 3 times a week.
3 times a week. So you're just doing like the A, B starting strength stuff, right? You're doing a squat, press, deadlift. The next time you're doing squat, bench, press, deadlift. I'm sure Graham, as time goes on here, will alter your programming to make sure that it's work that you can recover from, but is keeping you sufficiently stressed. And by golly, you've only got 22 more of these, sir.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug you because I think I know how you are. I think I do. There's a GoFundMe for cancer treatment for Professor Paul that our mutual friend James Yeager set up because you wouldn't. That's what I heard. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
People need to pay you back. You're a great help to all of your community and even to our community. So if you're interested in helping him, you can go to Cancer Treatment for Professor Paul on the GoFundMe. You can go to studentofthegun.com and subscribe to all of their content there, listen to the radio show, and go to studentofthegungear.com and go buy The Operator by Paul's secret friend, Nicholas Orr. That's a book your wife might like, actually.
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon as a Kindle or paperback version.
There we go. So you could have it instantly.
That is
right now.
It's an action adventure with romance in it.
Sounds titillating.
That's such a gross word.
My wife has asked me to tell you that she would like Mr. Orr to write another.
Oh, so she's read it.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
In fact, Charity was titillated.
Yes, and there's an autographed copy of it over here at her desk.
Oh, is there?
Yes, that's right.
She's a big fan. So we're going to come back and talk to you again in, what's your last day, the date on the calendar of treatment?
As a bank holidays and so forth, I actually don't finish until June 18th.
Okay, June 18th. So we'll come back in that ballpark and talk to you again and talk to you about what the process was like on the kind of the back end of it, how you're doing. And, you know, have you noticed a difference in your taste buds yet? Can you taste okay still?
Things are starting to taste like Play-Doh.
Can you taste on your left side where they're not? I mean, is the left side significantly better than the right side, or at this point is it all sort of getting dry? And
I like I said, that it's because it's affecting the salivary gland.
Yeah.
I work really hard to keep my mouth
wet.
Yeah,
you got those little mint things you got to put in your pouch, and it kind of makes that gel and keeps your mouth liquefied.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I need some of those.
Do you? Just so you can just stay, so your mouth is lubricated at all times.
I'll put them in the bedside table.
So bad.
What are those things called? What are they called?
You gotta cut that shit out.
Oh,
It's a family show, Hendrik.
I don't want. It's nothing worse than getting cotton mouth. You know,
That is true.
you got work
That
to
is
do,
true.
and you get cotton mouth and
Yeah.
Yahtzee.
Yeah, that's
There,
what it is.
there is another Barbell Logic podcast with our good friend and Professor Paul Markel, student of gun radio. We are all rooting for you, and for us, at least, the outcome is not in doubt. Well, you know what? I almost don't want to sign off. These people are like, "Hey, man, you've got cancer. Now wait." Like, what is that doing to you?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I was going to say, we talk about when we define strength in starting strength of the seminars as, the ability to produce force against an external resistance. And we talk about how the world uses this term strength. And we often even equate it to people who don't know better. We'll say, oh, he was really strong because he beat cancer. Like, that's an actual thing you'll hear people say, right? This idea like he was, and what they really mean is like, well, they were mentally tough, right? I love the fact that you're going to beat cancer because you're actually strong. You're not strong because you beat cancer, but a big process of you beating cancer is because you're actually strong, because of your ability to produce force against resistance, because of your hypertrophy and muscle mass that you have already gained in the years of the trenches of building this up, so that you didn't know this thing was coming.
no.
But then you get the phone call and you go, God, how thankful are you that you've done these things to ready yourself to be ready for the fight, not knowing what that fight was. Like, man, that fight could be any myriad of things, and you've been thrown the fight of cancer, and now you get to prove what this strength thing does for you. And
and when I got that phone call, I literally, not figuratively, not hypothetically, but literally was physically stronger than I believe I'd ever been in my life. And I've done a lot of things. I've been, as a Marine and so forth. And I've been cardiovascularly strong or core strength or whatever. But I mean, when I recorded strength, like I know that I can put X on this bar and I can pick it up off the ground.
Yeah.
I can squat X because I've written it down and I've watched my progress over the years. And I'd never put that much weight on a bar and squatted it before. I didn't even know how to deadlift until I met you. So I didn't have anything to measure it to, but I could literally say that I was physically stronger, in my life than I had been up to that point when I got that phone call.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, man, we love you. Thank you for being part of the family. Thanks for letting your family be part of our family, the greater collective of Barbell Logic, and we're thankful for you. I mean, I'm not excited for the cancer, but I am excited to see the journey and the number of lives it's going to touch and change with the attitude that you've taken. And not just the attitude, but the actual action that you're putting in place to fight this thing. It's really, really damn cool.
We must have a bias for action, which Professor Paul has, and I urge everyone else to. Hey, don't wait to get the call that says you've got cancer. Why don't you go ahead and barbell train right now and get strong, so when you get the call, you're the strongest you've ever been, just like Paul was. Go do your goddamn work, everybody, because cancer's coming, and it's, or whatever it is, right?
Or whatever.
Nobody gets out alive. So we're all going to be facing our thing eventually. This one ain't yours, though. This is just a bad spring, Professor Paul. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you in just a few days.
Hey, y'all, this is producer Trent. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Barbell Logic. The GoFundMe page for Professor Paul is still up and running. I'm going to drop a link in the show notes to that. So if you'd like to donate and help out one of our Barbell Logic brethren, one of our lifters in arms, then go to the show notes, follow that link, and you can donate there. We will talk to Paul again in a few weeks after he's had some more time to recover, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks again for tuning in. We'll talk to you in a few days.
All right, listen. Let's do some breathing exercises.